This marshmallow souffle cake is light, balanced in sweetness, and absolutely delicious. I have to warn you, you will eat at least 2 slices in one sitting. It's that good. Surprisingly super easy to make. First step is to dissolve the gelatin. Add the gelatin powder to a saucepan, then add some water and mix everything well until the gelatin is fully incorporated. It does take some time for the gelatin to fully dissolve and swell. That's why I like to do this in the beginning, and then it's ready to be used. Next, we will separate the egg whites from the egg yolks in 2 different mixing bowls. The egg yolks will be used for the bottom layer or the cake part, and the egg whites will be used for the marshmallow souffle part. After the eggs are separated, refrigerate the egg whites until you're ready to use them in the recipe. Now let's proceed making the bottom layer of the cake. In the mixing bowl with egg yolks, add about 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 35 grams of sugar, and mix everything with a hand mixer until it becomes a light yellow consistency, almost white. Once you see that the color of your egg yolk mixture has lightened up, add the hot milk to it and continue mixing. In the bowl with your flour, add 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a pinch of salt. You don't have to mix the flour because you will sift it through a sifter into your egg yolk mixture. Sifting the flour breaks up large lumps and also makes the dough more airy and fluffy. Also, towards the end of sifting, if I see bigger lumps of flour, I just push them through with my finger. It's still good flour, but they got a little bit lumpy from sitting too much in the bag. Now we take a spatula and incorporate the flour into the egg yolk mixture. You can also do it with the hand mixer on low setting. Make sure there are no lumps left. To bake this cake, I use a cake pan with a diameter of 9 inches. And I like to cover the bottom of the cake pan with parchment paper. The parchment paper helps to remove the cake later when it's baked. So remove the top part of the pan, put the parchment paper at the bottom, and then just close it up, and it's gonna hold nice and tight. Now we will cut the loose ends of the parchment paper. Just cut around the pan. Now we will pour all the batter into the cake pan. Use the same spatula to spread it out evenly so it comes out same thickness all over the cake. Bake the batter at 350 degrees for about 10 minutes and then check with a toothpick or a knife until it's ready. And you will know it's ready when the toothpick or the knife comes out clean. If it's not ready yet, put it back and check again in about 3 to 5 minutes. While the cake is baking, let's prepare the other ingredients for the souffle. In a blender cup, add your room temperature butter. Butter I usually like to take out of the fridge the night before and leave it overnight at room temperature because it's easier to work with if it's softer. Using a hand mixer, the whisker part, whisk the butter for about 2 to 3 minutes until a very nice mass is formed. Then we add the condensed milk and mix again. You can see here that the butter and the condensed milk are well mixed together. By the time you finish that, your cake bottom should be ready. Take a knife and loosen up the edges of your cake. To loosen up the edges, just go around with the knife and then open the cake mold and the cake should come out easily. Now we will remove the parchment paper from the bottom and place our bottom layer on a top of a plate. In order to hold our souffle together, we will put around either a cake ring, that's what I used in this recipe, or you can also use cake collars if you have those in the house. Place the cake ring tightly on the bottom layer of your cake so it holds up and the souffle doesn't come out. Now we will start the souffle. In the bowl with egg whites, add a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid, a pinch of salt, and the vanilla sugar, and start mixing on low. We will mix it like that for about 2 minutes. And for this step, I highly recommend using an electric mixer. While the egg whites are being mixed, let's prepare the sugar syrup. As you can see, the gelatin has bloomed nicely, and now we will add the sugar and put the saucepan on low heat until the sugar has completely melted. You will need to use a spatula to continually stir the mixture until you see that the sugar has been dissolved. Once you see that the sugar is dissolved, just turn off the heat and leave it on the stove until you are ready to use it. Now turn up the speed of your electric mixer to high and continue beating the egg whites until soft peak form. That's going to be another 4 minutes or so. In about 4 minutes, turn off the electric mixer and just check how are the peaks looking for your egg whites. If you don't see any soft peaks, just beat them again for another 2 to 3 minutes and check. When the soft peaks are formed, it should look similar to this. That means we're ready for the next step. Turn on the mixer back to high and slowly add your sugar and gelatin mixture. Very important here for the sugar and gelatin mixture, the temperature of it needs to be like bath water, so I usually check with my pinky finger to make sure that it's not too hot. After the sugar and gelatin syrup has been added, continue beating on high until stiff peaks form, similar to this. Once you have your stiff peaks, turn the electric mixer back on low this time and continue mixing, and now we will add the butter and condensed milk 1 spoon at a time. Because of the fat content in the butter, towards the end, the volume of your egg whites will decrease, which is natural. That's what butter does. Just continue adding slowly, 1 tablespoon at a time to incorporate the butter and condensed milk mixture. And this is how it should look at the end. You see, it's a little bit more liquidy and we don't have those stiff peaks anymore. Immediately, we will pour the mixture into the mold that we prepared earlier. Once you poured everything from the mixing bowl, use a spatula to kind of clean up the mixing bowl and make sure there's nothing left there. Then we will refrigerate this for minimum 2 hours until the souffle sets. Last step is to make the chocolate ganache. In a saucepan, add 1/2 cup of milk and heat it up and turn it off right before it starts to boil. Then we add 1 cup of chocolate chips and using a spatula, keep stirring until the chocolate chips have fully melted. I do this step when the souffle has set and right before I need to add the ganache on top of the cake. The ganache needs to be liquid so it's easy to pour on top of the cake. So if it looks a little more solid, just add some cold milk and continue stirring until you get to the desired consistency. If it's not liquid enough, just keep adding a little bit of milk at a time and keep stirring. Don't add too much milk because you might get it too liquid and it might not set eventually. That's how it should look. Liquid, but not too liquid. I hope this is not confusing, but it needs to be just liquid enough so you can pour it easily on top of the cake. Now remove the cake from the fridge and add your ganache on top. Spread it out all over the cake and put it back in the fridge for minimum another hour until the ganache sets. The reason that I like to use this recipe of the ganache is that when the chocolate hardens, is not too hard that when you cut the cake it cracks. This actually, the milk makes the chocolate soft, so it gets hard, but also it's soft and it doesn't crack when you cut the cake. We put back the cake in the fridge, and then once the chocolate has hardened, now we can remove the mold. So use a knife to loosen up the edges of the cake and just carefully remove the mold. With the knife, you just slide around the edges carefully so you can easily remove the cake mold. And then your cake is ready. You can decorate it with any fruit or berries of your liking, or just leave it like that before serving it. I hope you give this cake a try. I will promise you will not regret it. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And I hope this cake becomes a staple in your household. If you have not subscribed yet to my channel, please do so because more delicious recipes are coming up soon. See you next time.